What a win. What an amazing game. Just like this is the type of game that you remember for a very, very long time. Just the grittiness of this win for the Kings. 5 straight wins now. And I feel like this game is kind of the inverse of the Clippers game from a couple seasons ago. The 173, 172 or whatever it was. This was like the defensive version of that game where you're in the middle of the season and it's kind of a turning point of the season. You're on the second night of a back-to-back, and many times in the game it looks like you're not going to win, and somehow this team just gritted it out. And if you've been listening to my post-game recaps for the last few, I'm always talking about my prediction that, after the Kings fire Mike Brown, they win 4 straight. It wasn't exactly true, but because they lost the first one, but then they won 4 straight. And then I predicted that they would kind of go back to what they had been. And so this almost felt like them like fighting through that, This game was like them saying, this isn't a honeymoon period. Like, could it still be a honeymoon period? Sure. But, in my mind, this was like a symbolic game. And that's how I want to see it. Of like, no, we're not just going to win 4 straight and then go back to what we were. We're going to fight through this game down 17 in the fourth quarter, down in OT, and somehow just pull it out. And the grittiness to pull this out when you don't have De'Aaron Fox, when you're down 17 in the fourth quarter, when you just have no answer for this zone that the Heat are throwing at you. And, I'm not even sure if the Kings ever totally figured out how to beat the zone, but they just, through the power of friendship, they just battled through this amazing Heat defense. Because, this is what the Heat do to teams, and it would have been so easy for the Kings to just mail it in the fourth quarter, use the excuse of second night of a back-to-back, use the excuse of De'Aaron Fox being out, and they battled. You had Domantas Sabonis playing 50 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. Played 50 minutes. And I think he played 30 last night. He plays 50 tonight. And that is the guy who's nonstop effort, who's being asked to cover the most ground out of anyone in the NBA, pretty much. On the defensive side, he's being asked to blitz out to these guards, recover all the way to the rim, fight for every rebound. And somehow he's coming up with these crazy offensive rebounds to keep things alive. Every single starter above 43 minutes. It was just, this was just such an amazing game from the Kings. It was such a long game. It's going to be a long time for me to get through all of this, but I kind of just want to start at the start of the comeback in the fourth quarter, because things were looking so down, and the start of that fourth quarter was just so slow, and it just felt like we were going to have one of those Miami Heat games where the game just slows down so much and they just muck the game up on the defensive end, and we're going to die a slow death. And the guy who pulled us back into it was Keon Ellis. It really is wild how not playing one player can get a man fired. And that's really what happened. That's really what happened to Mike Brown. Just one man who's not a star player, and he is out here playing 49 minutes, catapulting the Kings into this game in the fourth quarter, hitting three. Like the first 3 that he hit was just a simple catch and shoot 3. The next one was a pull up with a guy right in his face. That's a confident shot from Keon Ellis, and that's the type of confidence that he's been playing with since the coaching change. And so that's something that right now, with the way the Kings are playing, seems like I underestimated how big of a difference just these players playing with the confidence of not getting benched would, how big of an impact that would have. So far, seems like a pretty big impact. Small sample size, but that shot from Keon pulling up with a guy right in his face, so good. And then I think he even hit another 3 after that, or maybe he didn't, I can't remember, but he just made defensive play after play. And, he started with the Tyler Hero responsibility in this game, and, he tried to get up all in him, and Tyler Hero hit some tough shots. and then he was getting pump faked, he was flying by. And so, that didn't go too well. And so a big change the Kings made was putting Keegan on Tyler Hero. And Keegan was great guarding Tyler Hero down the stretch of this game. So good, taking everything away from Tyler Hero. And that's just what Keegan does. It's funny because you put Keon Ellis on Jaime Jaquez and you put Keegan on Hero, and you think Hero will beat Keegan for speed, and you think Jaime Jaquez will beat Keon for size. But it worked so well because Keegan's just better at guarding those small guards. He's really good at staying in front of them, using his length, and I think that length just bothered Tyler Hero more. And then when you look at the Keon Ellis side of it, guarding Jaime Jaquez, Jaime Jaquez had a very good game. He had a triple-double. But there was a point in one of the overtimes, I think, where Jaquez got the ball in the post against Keon, and I said out loud, I'm like, "Ooh, this is a mismatch." And then Keon says, "No, this is not a mismatch," and he deflects the ball, and Kings get running the other way. It was just a masterful defensive performance from Keon Ellis. I mean, offensively and defensively, he sparked this team both ways. It was incredible. In the fourth quarter, he stripped a Heat player, then threw the ball off him out of bounds. He was just seemingly everywhere, getting deflections on like every play, creating 50-50 balls that the Kings didn't always win. And that was one of the big stories of the fourth quarter and overtimes. It was offensive rebounding, and both teams were getting them, but the Kings, I think, got more and took advantage more of their offensive rebounds. Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis both had 5 offensive rebounds in this game. They were huge, getting important rebounds down the stretch. And, the Heat got some as well, because that's just what happens late in games like this where it's a scramble, and they were taking outside shots and missing and getting their rebounds. And when you have a game where Monk didn't have it going, he wasn't able to really get to the rim much, he didn't have his outside shot going. DeMar had a good start to the game, but once he got numbers kind of thrown at him and didn't have as much space to operate, he couldn't really get things going. Sabonis missed some shots at the rim, missed some shots in the mid-range. He didn't have it going offensively. So without Fox, your 3 main guys don't have it going offensively. And so it's Keon Ellis sparking the team. Trey Lyles hit a big 3. And then obviously it was the defense and playing in transition. But then you have Keegan Murray coming up huge. And in the second half, he had 14 points. And that included one, I think it was off a Sabonis offensive rebound, where Keegan just dribbled into the mid-range, pulled up, and knocked it down. That was when the Kings were down 5 and cut it to 3. And, I mean, that's just a confident shot that I want Keegan taking. Because there were times earlier in this game, in the first half, when he had 0 points in the entire first half, there were times where he had Tyler Hero on him, and he didn't rise up. He didn't put his body into him and rise up. There were times where he was right at the rim, and he didn't go up at the rim. And it was so frustrating. He was backing it out to the perimeter. But when it mattered most, he was taking and hitting the big shots, whether that was from 3 or that one in the mid-range. He came through with massive offensive rebounds as well. So it was Keegan and Keon defensively on the boards, hitting big shots. DeMar got it going a little bit. He started getting to the rim a few times and getting some finishes, which was nice to see. Then you had that Tyler Hero just inexplicable 8-second violation. Sabonis, he got fouled after that defensive rebound. Such a bad foul from Haywood Highsmith. He goes and knocks down 2 of 2 from the free throw line. Very lucky on that first free throw, but we will take it. And then on the last offensive possession for the Kings, DeMar, just isolation, takes the midi and missed. And, I know a lot of people are going to be mad at that possession because there wasn't any ball movement, right? DeMar didn't have it up to that point, but I never lost faith in DeMar in this game. And if you want proof, you can go on my Twitter, because right after, I knew people were going to criticize him for that shot, but that's what he makes his living on. Like, those are the types of shots. I will live with that shot from DeMar 10 times out of 10 in that situation. When you're in a tie ball game, let him shoot that every time. And he missed. And so what do the Kings do down the stretch? They get the stop. And Malik Monk, underrated, huge defensive plays down the stretch. Obviously on that last possession where he got switched onto Hero, and I don't know if he blocked the shot, but he forced a bad miss. But it wasn't just that possession. He got switched on a hero multiple times. That's the switch that the Heat were seeking out. Because sometimes the Heat were trying to go at Sabonis. Sabonis was blitzing. That worked pretty well most of the time for the Kings. Blitzing, recovering. So they started going at Monk, and Monk just wasn't having any of it. He got big stops on Hero down the stretch of this game. And because of that one big stop in the final possession, the Kings go to overtime. And I was just thinking the entire time in overtime, like, DeMar, he's gonna hit the big shot. He's gonna hit the big shot. And throughout all of the first overtime, that didn't happen. But guess what? The Kings bought him enough time for the second overtime. You had Keon hitting that mid-ranger. You had Sabonis posting up and getting one to go. The Heat started to figure out the Sabonis on-ball blitzes a little bit. They got a couple good looks inside, swinging the ball quickly, getting it down low. You know, with DeRozan being the low man there. Bam succeeded a little bit. I think he got one shot to go. Highsmith got one to go down there. I think Bam might have hit a couple like floaters or mid-rangers down there. But the Kings also got quite a few stops using that blitz and having like Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan make good defensive plays down low, especially Monk. Monk has been a different player defensively, it seems like, since you know what happened. Someone got fired. I don't know. This team is playing differently. And so hopefully that continues, because Monk has been a different defender. And that makes it very hard for him to come out of the starting lineup. But it's like, who comes out of the starting lineup when Fox is back here? Yeah, it looked like it was going poorly when the Heat figured out that blitz a little bit. But Monk got the massive and one in transition. And that was huge, like him being able to push in transition. I know he was tired, but you know, he was still able to push in transition because he couldn't get anything in the half court. Then the huge Sabonis 3 to go up 1. Rozier missed 2 shots. You had that Keegan tap out to no one. And then Rozier missed one at the rim, got his own rebound, gets fouled, and hits both. That was kind of just one of those chaotic scenarios where you're just not able to come up with the rebound. And it was a chaotic game. And that's what happens in overtimes and double overtimes. And down the stretch in fourth quarters, there are just like those offensive rebounds become massive. So the Kings had time, and they were down 1, and Monk drove to the rim. It looked like he had so much space. It looked like Sabonis kind of carved out that space, and then he stops. And that's just one of those moments where I think when Monk is on and he's playing super well, he's going right at the rim, trying to finish that. But he just, he didn't quite have it in this game. And so he stops, jump stops, pump fakes, gets blocked by Highsmith there. And then I don't know who it was. Somebody fouled. And that was a clutch foul that they fouled Hawkeye so quickly, because the Heat, they were getting the ball up the court. There was no King available to, foul or defend down the court. They needed to foul right away. And that's one of the things that that frustrates me so much when teams don't do it, when they kind of are just like, oh, we missed. Oh yeah, we need to foul, and it's already too late. Underrated move, the Kings fouled quickly. I'm not sure who it was, but whoever fouled, it was clutch, because they fouled right away. It wasn't a clear path foul. They went and reviewed it, and there were still 3.4 seconds left. I mean, that was massive. And then Hawkeyes misses both free throws, and Kings get another shot. They use DeMar as a decoy. Inbound to Sabonis, back to Keon, and he has the state of mind to be able to pump fake Bam Adebayo. A Jaden Ivey-like move, one might say. He pump fakes. I thought it was a 3. I didn't see that it was a 2, but it was clearly a 2, and he pump fakes, gets the free throws. So I actually went into the first shot thinking it was a 3-shot foul. Or I wasn't sure, but I thought it was more likely that it was. I didn't see if it was. And so he missed the first one, and so I only wanted him to hit one. I was just like, this is good that he has 3 opportunities to hit one. And then, he misses the first, he goes into the next one, and then everyone's boxing out. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was a 2. Then I got really nervous, but he knocked down the second one. Because in that situation, like if it's Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan going to the free throw line, I'm expecting them to hit both. When it's a guy like Keon Ellis, or if it's Keegan, or if it's Sabonis, like not the best free throw shooters and not the clutch guys, all I want is a tie game there. And Keon gave it to us. And then the Kings play good defense for the last zero point 0.9 seconds to force another overtime. And in that second overtime, I mean, we just needed to get enough time until DeMar started knocking down his shots. I felt that it was always going to come at some point. And the second overtime was finally where it did. And I forget who scored the first points of the overtime, but the Kings scored 11 and DeMar had 9 straight after the first two, I believe. And that was even with the Kings losing out on a couple loose balls, and the Heat capitalized on one. When Haywood Highsmith hit that sidestep three, I was like, come on. Like, are you kidding me? And it was another clutch offensive rebound from Sabonis, and DeMar was just able to take us home. The Heat even scored a couple times again with the Kings blitzing, and they got it inside a couple times and finished. But yeah, it wasn't enough to overcome DeMar doing what he does best. And even one of his shots should have been an and one. And then, of course, he had to do his classic foot on the line 3-point or 2-point attempt. Just a crazy, crazy game down the stretch. So fun. And obviously, I can say so fun because we won. You know, if we don't win this game, then I'm like, man, I had to stay up for that. And, you know, just watch through 2 overtimes of the Heat and their zone and their horrible basketball. You know, I actually liked watching this game until the Kings, you know, start going down big. And so we can talk about a little earlier in the game. Right away, I think the coaches set the tone of this game. Doug Christie challenging 14 seconds in. If he would have known that this game was going double overtime, it's like you probably need your challenges. He didn't. But yeah, he was successful. I don't agree with that type of challenge 14 seconds in, even though he won it. I don't agree with it, but hey, whatever. And then you just had like Sabonis missing inside, Monk missing inside, Keon getting the steal, and then it should have been a clear path foul. They called it a take foul. He knocks down a free throw. Keon getting hit in the face. You know, it's a foul. Heat challenge. And then, no, it's a foul on Keon, but there's a technical on Hero for hitting him in the face. Keon knocks down another free throw. So it wasn't even like the longest that we'd ever seen without a field goal, but it felt like the longest just because of the challenges and how much time it was taking for everything to happen. The first 2 minutes took an eternity. They were playing the first 2 minutes like it was the last 2 minutes, and that set the tone for how this game was going to be played. DeMar started off hitting a couple jumpers, and that's really good for him to be able to start out and obviously start carrying the offense early on when it was ugly, and when you have a defense like the Heat, and when you're without De'Aaron Fox. And so it looked like we were possibly in for a big night from DeMar. And I mean, of course, he ends with 30 points, but it was a little wild ride to get there. But DeMar was just able to get to the middle of the floor so easily, coming around these Sabonis screens, getting to the middle, having only one defender on him. And after he hit like 3 shots, I think he had 8 first quarter points, the Heat completely changed that. And we'll get to that. But the Kings were really trying to push the pace. You know, I think it was a point of emphasis for them, probably Doug Christie, knowing they're coming into the second night of a back-to-back, knowing they need to keep the energy up and set the tone right away. And some of it resulted in some turnovers. Sabonis had 2 bad turnovers trying to push it in transition. You know, I didn't mind them too much, like especially the first one. I mean, of course they weren't great turnovers, but it's like you're really trying to push the pace, and that's what the Kings need to do. It's like, so the idea behind it was good, and obviously you don't want to turn the ball over like that, but sometimes you have to live with some of those. The Heat got their offense going when they were able to get to the floater area. They were killing us with floater after floater, you know, with Sabonis playing in that drop, and they were just getting right to wherever they wanted. And so there were a few times of that. And that's when, you know, later on, much later on, the Kings adjusted and started really blitzing the guards to try to throw a different look and not let them just walk into the paint, because they were hitting their floaters. And, you know, sometimes teams aren't hitting their floaters. It's not the easiest shot, even though, but like when it goes in, it looks super easy. It's not the easiest shot, but they were making them. And then for the Kings offensively, Malik Monk, he was just missing some shots that he normally makes, and he was doing a lot of dribbling. And he had that one play where he's like just dribbling around, or he had like two plays where he was just dribbling around and somehow gets a shot up. One of them went, one of them didn't. But it was a lot of dribbling. And you think when you're without De'Aaron Fox that you need Malik Monk to play well offensively, and he didn't have it going in this game. And you need your other two leading scorers in Sabonis and DeRozan. Like, you need more than what they were giving, pretty much. You don't necessarily need all three of them to get going, but you at least need one of them to really get going if the other two are struggling a little bit. But no one had it going other than DeMar early on, very early on. And on the other side, you had Tyler Hero just hitting tough shots, because why not? He hit two really tough threes, movement threes. But, honestly, despite a lot of the dribbling and, the ball movement not being great, I didn't hate the shots that the Kings were getting in the first quarter. Like I said, I think Monk missed some shots that he normally makes. I think Sabonis missed some shots he normally makes. And the Kings just weren't hitting from three. So it wasn't the greatest offensive look, but it also wasn't the worst. They just needed to make some more shots. Then you had some fun moments. Devin Carter comes in and hurdles Terry Rozier, puts his hand on his head as well. Doesn't get called for the foul, and then Domas just blocks him. Very fun play. Sabonis hit a three. You had Carter stripping Hero on the second to last possession of that quarter. But also before that, you had Lyles coming down with a rebound, but then turning it over. Lyles turns the ball over a lot in our own end, like after he gets rebounds, whether it's someone coming down and stripping him after the rebound, or him trying to outlet and turning it over. Like, he passes a lot to players that aren't looking. So, just something I've noticed. But he turned it over, and then Sabonis just, sticks out his hand. And Jovic was, I think, taking a floater. And Sabonis just sticks out his hand into his chest for no reason. Like, it was even after the shot had come. And that's where Sabonis just has to be better. Like, he can't take that foul. He already had a foul. That was his second foul. And especially with Fox out, that's not a foul he can be taking. And the rest of the game, he did well, staying out of foul trouble for the most part. Having 5 fouls in a double overtime game where he plays 50 minutes, I'm saying that's good from Sabonis, especially when he had 2 in the first quarter. But he has to stop with those dumb fouls. The bench unit to start the second quarter was interesting. We had Alex Len in there for a little bit. He only played 2 minutes. Devin Carter was making things happen. Offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. Had a nice high finish. I think it was over Khalil Ware. Kevin Huerter came in, played 15 minutes. And he was important to the offense. And I say important because I don't want to say good. I don't think he had a good game, but he was important to the offense because nothing was happening. And so it kind of came to him to just dribble around and find something. And he did that a couple of times. He knocked down a 3, but also there's a reason he only got 15 minutes in this game. And it's because he wasn't good. But he was important to that bench lineup offensively. Keegan was just killing me, though. He was driving inside, then he pulled it back out. Pulled it all the way back out to the perimeter, then drove back inside, picked up his dribble, kicked it out with 1 second left. What are you doing? And earlier he had Tyler Hero on him, and he pulls it out and he passes the ball when he could just, rise up, take one dribble, put his body into him a little bit, rise up in the mid-range. So frustrating moments there from Keegan offensively. And then the Heat went zone. And that just killed us because Keegan missed a 3, Lyles missed a 3. And it was a lot on the perimeter. And so against a bench lineup, you don't have the guy that's going to break down this zone. And the Heat got a little bit of a lead when Hero and Robinson both knocked down a couple threes. But then Malik Monk came back in, and he started to get it going, which was big. He got inside for a finish. He got inside to get to the free throw line. Domas found him on a backdoor cut. So that was super important that he got going in the second quarter. There were still a lot of moments offensively where things got jammed up and we resorted to Trey Lyles dribbling around and doing a spin move to get to the free throw line. Great that he got to the free throw line. Not what we want to rely on. I did love one moment, though, where Keon Ellis comes around a dribble handoff in the corner from Sabonis, just dribbles to the middle of the paint, rises up and hits a midi. Those are very intriguing plays from Keon Ellis. And then he got a steal, and he slow-stepped to the rim to get someone to fly by and finish and give the Kings a 1 point lead. So these moments with Keon on the ball, nothing too crazy, but just these simple plays, him keeping it simple, slow stepping, learning from Harrison Barnes, finishing. You had Monk hitting a running hook shot and one, and DeMar getting a steal, pushing it in transition, kicking out to Monk in the corner for three. So things went really well in the middle of the second quarter. And then the Heat started to really load up against DeMar DeRozan and really deny him the middle of the floor. And the offense became DeRozan sitting on one wing with the ball. Then he would pass it over to Monk, who sits on the other wing with the ball, and he would pass it back. And, it's like the Heat kept loading up against them. And, when they would load up against DeMar, it would create a little bit of room for Monk, but his shot wasn't going down. And so the Kings, they brought a 3-point lead into halftime, and it was because of their defense. It was because of their offensive rebounding. DeMar getting a few buckets and Monk finally getting going in that second quarter. The third quarter started out really well. Keegan knocking down 2 threes, looking like more the Keegan that we know and love. And then he took a 2-pointer on the next possession, and he missed it. But that's the aggressiveness I want to see. But then that Heat zone just bogged everything down, and the Kings, they just weren't making quick decisions. They were getting stops. Bam was trying to force things, through Sabonis pretty much in the post, and that was not working. Sabonis held his ground. And so the Kings, they had this opportunity to get some separation, and it just felt like guys weren't making quick decisions. The offense wasn't flowing. And then, just for, the next however long, 12 minutes, it was torture watching the Kings offense against this zone. Because, at first they're just spending the whole possession trying to get the ball to Sabonis in the middle. But then it's like, okay, you have the ball with Sabonis. What do you do now? If he puts the ball on the floor, then it's probably a turnover, or nothing's going to really happen. He missed some shots on the perimeter. Nobody putting pressure on the rim. Nobody just trying to go by their man. Guys just hesitating when they did have open looks. And it's those situations where it's like, sometimes you just got to take a shot because that's as open as you're going to get. I get you want to be patient, but they just needed quicker decision making. Obviously, you give credit to the Heat. Like, this is what the Heat do. This is what they're known for. They go to these zones. They play zone more than anybody in the NBA, and it's because when it's working like this. And they have some great defenders out there. When the Kings would try to get the ball to the middle of the zone, they were handsy, trying to strip the ball. And then they were going the other way off all these misses and turnovers and finishing at the rim and jump-starting their own offense through their defense. But it was just so frustrating watching nobody be aggressive. No one tried to just beat their man off the perimeter. It's like if you beat your man, you don't even have to just keep going to the rim. You could slow down and keep someone on your back and try to move things around. It felt like the Kings would get the ball to the middle of the zone through either Sabonis or Lyles. And then especially Lyles would just try to force these passes into cutters when the Heat are just swallowing everything up in the paint and just not being able to fake a pass there and then hit someone on the perimeter. And that's just some of the, quick decision making that the Kings lacked. Devin Carter was the one guy who he got the ball in and he just went by a guy and got to the rim and got to the free throw line. So that was nice to see from him. He also just stayed after a rebound, him and Lyles, and he was able to get a layup. So Devin Carter contributing in the ways that you expect him to contribute. But even on the last play, Trey Lyles finally comes to set a screen because that's something the Kings weren't really trying. So he comes to set the screen, but it's like the weakest screen you've ever seen, and that's both on him, that's on DeMar, I think it was, for not utilizing the screen, right? So it's on both guys, and it was just like a lazy screen. DeMar wants to go one-on-one, Lyles not really setting it. And the Kings, they went to Doug McDermott for 2 minutes, and just to get someone who can maybe hit a shot and break this zone. That's not a guy who's going to lock down the defensive end. That's not a guy who's going to push the ball to the rim to break the zone. That's just desperation. We need someone to hit a shot to bail us out. And then, McDermott just got bullied inside on the defensive end. DeMar throws a lazy pass that gets intercepted for a dunk and an immediate timeout from Doug Christie to start the fourth quarter. 4-0 run. And then, more bad things were happening. I mean, Keegan got some offensive rebounds, but then he just missed an easy one inside. DeMar had a wide open, close mid-ranger that he just missed. He did get to the free throw line, though. Sabonis was trying to get deep position against Ware, and that was an effective way to score against the zone. Him getting deep, getting the pass in there, and finishing. And then we kind of saw the Kings figure something out when Sabonis was just setting a screen way out on the wing, and there was just a ton of movement, fast paced, and I think that was when DeMar then kicked the ball back up to Keon for 3 at the top. So it was finally just something different than the Kings fitting this mold and constantly keeping 2 guys on the wing, 2 guys in the corner, 1 guy at the free throw line. Like, they finally just tried something else and were just moving, and it didn't necessarily have to have purpose, but it's just like they're mucking things up, so you gotta, get a little crazy. And it's funny how in my notes, I can see myself getting frustrated. It's like, Keegan has ball at rim and doesn't even think about going up. Hero to rim easily. Robinson, easy 3 around screen. I'm pissed when I'm using easy all the time. And then the next one, Domas casually putting ball down in middle of zone. It's like he the entire time have been in this zone and have, just been deflecting everything and getting their hands on everything, and he just casually puts the ball down in the zone and it gets stolen. It's just like, this is over. And on the other end, the Kings were getting pump faked to death by Jaime Jaquez and Bam and everyone. Everyone just pump fakes inside or pump fakes on the perimeter, and they're getting easy shots. Kings flying by or, jumping inside. But then we get to where I started this whole thing off, which was the Keon threes, the Keon defense, the blitzing, that forced turnovers, DeMar getting some looks at the rim, kicking out to Keon for 3, and from there, Kings go on to a major comeback. Just looking at these stat lines, it's kind of, disgusting. The percentages, the Heat shot 26% from 3. The Kings shot 34%. Both teams shooting low 40s. The minutes are crazy, 50 minutes for Sabonis. You have, every starter is over 40 minutes. But looking at some of these stat lines, obviously I talked about Sabonis 50 minutes, 7 for 16 from the field. He didn't have the greatest and most efficient offensive game, but hit 2 threes. One of them was huge down the stretch. 5 for 7 from the line, hit some clutch free throws. 18 rebounds, 11 assists with the 21 points, 3 blocks, a steal. Had those 6 turnovers, like I talked about a lot. But he wanted this game so bad. Like, he just had so much energy down the stretch. He was getting so hyped up after every shot, after every play. He forces a rebound, an offensive rebound, to go off a Heat player and go out of bounds for Kings ball. And he's just screaming. And that got me so hyped up. That's why I'll always love Domas. He cares so much, and he's just the ultimate energy guy. And that's what he gave in 50 minutes, constant energy. And he's just getting all these offensive rebounds down the stretch and keeping this team alive. It was not his prettiest game by any means, but just the energy and passion that he showed was amazing. DeMar, he played 47 minutes, ends up 12 for 26 from the field, which ain't too bad. 1 for 4 from 3, although he had the toe on the line one. 5 for 5 from the free throw line. 30 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, a block. With Fox out, we had to live with DeMar getting shots down the stretch. And as I watched him missing those shots, I knew that there were Kings fans getting very pissed, saying, why isn't he moving the ball and all that? But I was just like, we got to live with it. We got to live with what DeMar is going to do, and he eventually came through. Monk, 49 minutes, 8 for 25 from the field, 1 for 9 from 3, 6 for 7 from the free throw line, 23 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, only 1 turnover. Not his finest game, obviously, but had a big second quarter, and he just kept at it, and defensively guarding Hero many times on switches. He was huge, coming up with clutch defensive plays, coming up with rebounds, getting inside and getting to the free throw line was huge. Keon, the 49 minutes, 6 for 11 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, a block. 49 minutes. 49 minutes. This dude, this is a guy that was getting DNP'd, and he's playing 49 minutes in a game now. It's pretty funny. Like, it's funny. But the way that he just sparked this run through his energy, his defense, and obviously his 3-point shooting. But then he showed many other moments of being able to step into the mid range, knock those down, and did that in a clutch moment. And that goes right into Keegan Murray. He also, in a clutch moment, stepped into a mid ranger. And that's massive for your two, complementary guys around your three main offensive guys to be able to step in and hit those mid rangers. That adds a different dynamic to your offense. And that's something that Keegan's been lacking. And he was able to do it in a big moment that, we don't win this game if he doesn't hit that shot. And if he doesn't hit shots down the stretch, hitting threes, and he ended up 4 for 6 from three, only 5 for 10 from the field, but the 14 points, 12 rebounds, 5 of them offensive, was huge. We did not play much of a bench. Feel bad for our starters playing all these minutes, but Trey Lyles, 23 minutes, 2 for 8 from the field, 1 for 5 from three. He didn't have a 3-point shot, but he had the 6 points, 6 rebounds. I was really wondering down the stretch, like, when do we go to Trey Lyles here? Maybe that's probably a triple overtime thing. Like, at some point, you can't keep going with the 5 guys. They've just played 10 straight minutes of overtime, plus however long they were in down the stretch. And I think Trey got in for like a couple minutes or a couple seconds down the stretch. But, at some point, you had to make a sub in overtime. You can't just keep with the same guys. But we were able to win it before that became a big deal. Definitely wasn't Trey's best game, but also wasn't his worst. He was fine. Herter, 15 minutes, 3 for 8 from the field, 1 for 4 from three. Would have been nice to get some more shooting from him. But he was important in his first stretch offensively. But defensively, it hurts how many times, especially in transition moments, where his defense is just standing there. Because he knows if he tries to keep up with the guard going around him, he's just going to foul him. So he just kind of lets him go by, just hits him and hopes that he delays him enough for the guy behind him. It's been his thing lately. It's not fun to watch. Then we have Devin Carter, only played 9 minutes. I was kind of surprised about that. But in those 9 minutes, of course, grabbed 4 rebounds. He went 2 for 4 from the field. 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. His free throw doesn't look great. He went 1 for 2 from the line. His 3-point shot hasn't gone down yet. So we're still waiting for that. He went 2 for 7 last game, 0 for 2, I think, in his first game. But again, not a lot of opportunity here. So I'm waiting for that big Devin Carter game. I thought this was the game where we're going to need him to come in and just start hitting some deep threes like we've seen him do with Providence in Stockton. Luckily, it wasn't the game where we needed him to do that. But just solid effort plays from him. And then Lennon, McDermott, both with 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes. That's about all that needs to be said about them. And the Kings have won 5 in a row going into this break here. They pretty much have the week off. Huge winning both games with Fox out. And I say both games, I don't know if he'll be out longer, but now you go on this 3-game road trip to the East Coast, starting in Boston. But you have a few days off here until Friday. And so hopefully Fox will be good by then. I don't know. But, there were people, not many, but a few in my comments after the Golden State game. We don't need Fox, trade Fox for wings. Monk is your star, whatever. Well, we won this game, but, do you still feel the same? I know we won this game, but I feel like this is a good example of why you need De'Aaron Fox so badly. And one game against the Warriors does not mean that you don't need Fox. One good game from Malik Monk. I know it's not just one good game, but one amazing game. And I know most people don't think that, but there were a few in my comments, so I just thought I'd say that. So yeah, we have Boston coming up. And man, Boston. I'm so glad we're on a 5-game win streak coming into this game in Boston. A 26-10 team. They're not the Thunder, they're not the Cavs right now in the regular season, but still. They're going to be on rest. I don't think they have injury concerns. And when was the last time we beat Boston? I don't even know. Feels like we haven't beat them in forever. Last year we almost beat them, but that was because they pulled all their guys and we almost made an incredible comeback against their, third stringers. Still mad. Colby got fouled. They didn't call it. Should have won that game. We'll never know if Colby would have hit those free throws. But look, a game against the Celtics, it's like, how do you beat the Celtics? It's hope they miss. Hope Porzingis isn't going off. Against us, Porzingis is a mismatch for pretty much everyone, especially us. Don't foul Porzingis. Just get a good contest off. Hope he misses. And hope they miss and play with energy is kind of how you got to play against the Celtics. Can we see Neemias Queta against the Kings, possibly? And so, yeah, pretty much my key for this game is just pray. Not much else. But looking forward to the rest of that road trip. Some more winnable games after that in Chicago and Milwaukee. Milwaukee has been playing better after their horrid start. Although maybe not so much. I didn't realize this. They lost to the Nets, Bulls, won against the Pacers, then lost to the Nets again and the Trailblazers, and then won against the Raptors. So maybe not. I thought they'd been playing better, but that was before that stretch that they had been playing a lot better and winning a bunch of games. But they just had a really bad stretch there, losing to 4 bad teams. But can I just say, I'm looking at their schedule. Let's list their last however many games. Wizards, Bulls, Nets, Bulls, Pacers, Nets, Trailblazers, Raptors. It's so nice to be an Eastern Conference team, isn't it? Like, what is that schedule? But the game against Chicago, the game against Milwaukee, if the Kings can go 2-1 on this road trip, that would be huge. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Royal Report. As always, shout out to the members of this channel for the support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.